In the city of Meridian, where people moved so fast they often forgot their own shadows, there lived an old woman named Flora. Her home was a small, tucked-away shop with a faded sign that read, "Things misplaced." Flora did not sell anything. She was a gardener of a different sort. Flora had a gentle magic. She could find not lost objects, but lost intangibles, a sense of wonder, discarded in a hurry. A forgotten promise, grown brittle, a moment of courage, left behind in fear. These lost things would drift through the city like invisible seeds, and they would take root in Flora's shop, manifesting as strange, delicate plants in her collection of porcelain pots. A wilting gray vine was a forgotten dream of a painter. A shimmering, trembling leaf was the last bit of trust from a betrayed heart. A flower that refused to open was the unsaid apology between two friends. Flora tended to them all with patience, but she never interfered. She believed these things had to find their own way back, or not at all. One rainy afternoon, a young man named Leo stumbled into her shop, not looking for anything in particular, just shelter from the storm. He was an architect, brilliant and celebrated, but his eyes were hollow. He moved a pot to sit down, and his fingers brushed a peculiar plant, a small, crystalline tree that felt cold to the touch. A vision flashed before him, himself as a boy, not with blueprints, but with a lump of clay, laughing as he shaped a ridiculous, lopsided castle for the sheer joy of it, the pure, unmeasured joy of making. He jerked his hand back, his breath catching. "What is that?" "That," Flora said softly, "watering another plant, is your why. You lost it some years ago, I believe. It took root here when you chose prestige over passion." Leo was offended. "I didn't lose it. I outgrew it. Childish play isn't for adults." Flora simply pointed to the crystal tree. One of its tiny branches had crumbled to dust at his touch. "It disagrees." Over the weeks, Leo found himself drawn back to the shop. He saw a businessman, frantic, reclaim a seed of patience he'd abandoned, which had grown into a stout, calm oak sapling in a pot. He saw a weary nurse take back a blossom of self-care, its scent instantly easing her frown. He watched as Flora nurtured these lost things, but never forced them on anyone. His own crystal tree, however, grew more brittle. He began to see its reflection in his own work, elegant, cold, soulless structures praised by critics but loved by no one. He was building a career, but he had stopped creating. One evening, in despair, he faced Flora. "How do I take it back? It's mine." Flora shook her head. "You cannot take it back like a borrowed book. You must reclaim it. You must prove you are soil where it can grow again. It is not a possession. It is a relationship." The next day, Leo didn't go to his firm. He bought a block of the cheapest clay. He sat in his sterile, modern apartment, and for hours, he simply played. He made misshapen animals and wobbly pots. He made a mess. He felt foolish, then frustrated, then a tiny spark. A flicker of warmth in his chest, unrelated to accomplishment or praise. When he next visited Flora's shop, the crystal tree was gone. In its place was a single, radiant, golden seed on the shelf. Flora smiled. "It has decided to return to its gardener. Plant it within, tend to it daily." Leo cupped the seed, and it dissolved into warmth that spread through his veins. His next architectural design was for a community garden center, a fusion of brilliant engineering and whimsical, joyful shapes that made children point and adults smile. It was the most acclaimed work of his life, but for the first time, he cared less for the acclaim and more for the feeling in his fingers as he sketched. The joy of making. Moral: the most precious things we lose are often pieces of our own spirit, our joy, our passion, our why. We cannot simply retrieve them from where we dropped them. They are not static objects. We must actively create the conditions within ourselves for them to grow again, through humility, patience, and the courage to be playfully, authentically ourselves.